Hey, okay.
Well, that's.
I like that.
Yeah.
That was the worst.
A lot of high schools are going out there.
How's Ollie doing?
I mean, it's still shape, but.
Yeah.
She's always like, I don't want to work back. I have to miss student managing because I have wrestling. I'm like, that's.
Help verify a little bit,
That's
yeah.
okay.
Yeah, he'd be able to do it.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. She's like, my knees get stronger. I'm going to do stuff now. Manager wrestles. So she does like 2/3 of the season and then she shifts. And she's just having the last big hard work.
Okay, this is that I was like, okay, deposit gave me I don't know if she just answered. I have no experience with lacrosse, but I'm super athletic and I'm a competitive swimmer. I'm very talented. I've always wanted to do lacrosse, but we don't have it in my team.
I mean, you can see how athletic she is.
I take one walk home a year with no experience.
Maybe she's kind
Not
of.
good, yeah, just like.
Oh,
Just works, you know.
So
So I don't know if you can be part of that too.
well, I'm saying he might be recruiting her.
so you recruiting an Annika?
Oh, yeah.
Petro?
Yes. Is she athletic? She's reached out to me. She's never played lacrosse. Once play.
I would be real surprised if she
I'm making
came.
it really
I'm actually surprised that she can
There's
swim.
only a
She
couple.
doesn't look like I'm just saying, like, what she looks like.
Yeah, because like she like had like some interest and like reached out and I was like, do you have a lacrosse background? She's like, no, but I've always wanted to play.
Well, she did just tell me that she's 100, like, she paid like a month ago.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I heard from my team, like, oh, she's still thinking about things. So I reached out to her. Took her like 2 weeks to get back to me.
Yeah.
And she's like, yeah, I'm kind of good.
Yeah.
She didn't say anything about the cost, but I did see it.
Yeah.
I'll ask her, and I'll ask her friends, if she has good friends.
Maybe I'll like see how she does in the fall, recruit her and all that. I do one walk on a year.
I don't know.
Yeah.
We're kind of done before your season.
Yes. Yeah, we'll spring, yeah.
I'm pretty flexible in fall. I've had to go.
I'm just a stickler at times, so I'm just watching my clock. Once it turns 9:30. Basketball.
Oh, okay.
Volleyball. Badminton. Table tennis, actually.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for taking the time today. I know busy schedule. So I'm just gonna go over what we're gonna do today and just a few reminder for us. But first, my name is Yushan Chen. If you haven't met me yet, I am the executive assistant to the president as well as the board of trustees. But I was just tasked this time to help us organize and just support Elizabeth and the team of Athletic for this process. So what we have about 50 minutes today. We have approximately 8 to 9 questions for Karen today from this room at this session. And then, so I will be asking the questions, and then once Karen finishes, if you have any follow-up question, you may raise your hand, and then we can get to you for the follow-up questions. And then a reminder is that at the end of the day, once the whole day, Karen's day, is over, maybe by about 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, I will send out the feedback form for you. And then we will expect the feedback form to come back Monday, end of day, just so that your memory is fresh, and then you can just finish, so we can get all the feedback as soon as we can for the process. And then, okay, then before we ask all the questions, we just want to refresh a little bit so Karen can kind of get to know the coaches here. So we just want to kind of go around the room and introduce yourself, what sports and how long have you been here. but I'm gonna, Karen, if you wanna, do you have any question? You're good?
No, once you do, and then also I brought a couple portfolios, I saw one is there, if we can pass those around. It just has to be turned back in at the end, if by chance you'd like to just refresh those. I can also, electronically send you a copy of that, if by chance you would like that, before you submit your feedback evaluation on Monday. So, look forward to spending 50 minutes with you.
All right, perfect.
Yeah, Sarah, I'm the head women's lacrosse coach, I'm going on 2 years.
I'm Haley Dominic, I'm the head women's volleyball coach, and I am starting my 4th year.
I'm Alyssa Lampy, men's and women's wrestling, and this is my 3rd year.
Frank Johnson, men's and women's wrestling, this is my 1st year.
Jackson Vaughn, head women's softball coach and defensive coordinator for football, and it's like 25 years or something.
Joseph Smith, football, a few years, longer than Jack.
Excuse me, Dwayne Dewey, head athletic trainer, 11 years.
Steve Simmons, director of soccer, women's soccer coach, assistant AD, and interim compliance officer. First tour duty was 5 years, second tour duty is 5 years.
Levi C, men's basketball, and I'm in year 1.
Mike Blackmore, head cross-country coach, assistant track coach, year number 8.
Mitch Wilson, director of golf, this is year 7.
Jason Wilson, women's basketball, and I'm SWA and SAC advisor, year 10.
Kyle Kimball, swimming, and been here for 10 years.
I'm Gina Regalado. I'm the head dance coach. I've been coaching dance for 5 years, but I'm also the associate director of IT services for financial aid, and I've been here for 22 years.
Excellent, thank you, welcome. All right, thank you, we'll get started. All right, Karen, how would you describe your leadership style? How did you develop your leadership style, and has it changed over the year? If so, why?
Excellent. Well, I had an opportunity to share with the assistant coaches and the support staff in the first session that it has evolved over the last 30 years. Started off first 30 years of my career as a collegiate coach, and I feel that you need to continue to learn and grow. Every experience really shapes who you are as a leader. Every engagement, every competition, hopefully you're evaluating that exchange. And in 2021, I had an opportunity to attend the leadership development program at the Center of Creative Leadership, and it was the most intense, transformative leadership program that I have ever been to. 5 days, aside from being in beautiful San Diego, it was just absolutely incredible. And I learned so much, how to have difficult, honest, in-depth conversations, and I learned the SBI approach, situations, behavioral, and impact, and how to have conversations with individuals, both in a positive feedback, but also constructive feedback. And this is what's really helped me have conversations in regards to evaluations. And I put these in evaluations, and I put these in individuals' files, and it's really helped me. Our HR department uses these, and it is, as you know, for those of you who supervise assistant coaches and direct reports, you need to document, right? And that's something that HR just kind of really embeds in us, is that when you're doing evaluations, you need to document everything, every situation that happens, the behavior that's involved, and the impact. So as we become leaders and we learn and we grow, and we have those situations that happen with players, we need to document. So the SBI approach is something that is really impacted. And I wish I would have learned it 26 years before I learned it. Going into now my 31st year, I really wish I would have learned it in 1994. I would have probably been a much better coach and had much better different dialogue. So from a departmental standpoint, I talked about this when I was here in February, but I laminate, as an old softball coach, everything got muddy and wet. I'm sure Coach can attest to. So I laminate everything. I laminate it at home. But I talk about the DAC, and that is everything needs to have direction, alignment, have a competitive, excellent environment if everyone is not moving the same direction with alignment and commitment. If you have a support staff, an athletic trainer, assistant coach, your team captain, or head coach not moving in this type of synergy, you're not going to move in a forward direction in a championship environment. So I learned this also in 2021, and it's really helped. And I feel this alignment and this direction, commitment, when anything starts to go awry, you really bring this back into your center of discussions and really find out how you can bring that leadership back in and tie everyone back into what you're really moving towards. And then give everyone a voice. I really appreciated being asked how to align this room. It was set up in a classroom style when I first walked in, and I asked, can we please move it to where everyone has a voice? Center it in a circle. When I was here in February, I was put in a room where it was in a classroom setting. To me, that's not an inviting situation where everyone can be seen. People were behind people, and not everyone can be seen and heard. This, to me, is an inviting situation where everyone can be seen and heard, and they can speak up when they want to. So that's my leadership style, and it's always evolving, and I think you want to be a continual learner, and I'm always willing to continue and learn new things. So it's a little bit about my leadership style.
Does anybody have follow-up question to Kieran's answer about leadership style? Good? Okay. Okay, next question. And this is a long question that pack about 3 different questions in there, so bear with me. Okay, but it's kind of the same concept. So describe your approach to balancing the need to win with the need to fundraise and with the need to be compliant. Tell us about a time when you tried to balance these 3 priorities but were not successful and something didn't happen as it should. What happened and how did you handle that, and how would you do it differently?
So I'd love to know who submitted this question because so I instantly thought of one situation, but I would love to know how this situation comes up, because when I think of compliance, nothing should deviate from compliance, because if you're deviating from compliance, you're breaking rules. So nothing should deviate from breaking rules. Once you start deviating from breaking rules, you're deviating from your character, and you're really you're going awry. So that's how I interpreted this question. If that's not how this individual meant for this question to be put forward, then please illustrate it in a different way. But that's how I interpreted this question, is that you would need to make a decision to be in compliance. I do not waver from rules or compliance. I do not waver on rules. I will never compromise compliance or compromise rules. For example, I had a donor who owned a dispensary. He was a rugby alumni. He wanted to give a significant contribution to our endowment. It would violate our endowment. He tried to do a DBA in another name and send in a check. It got cashed by our advancement office. I caught wind of it, and I had the funds returned. So there's an example of, I will not take funds that are not compliant, that would violate our state laws of accepting dollars from a dispensary, and thus put our advancement dollars in jeopardy. So I'm not sure if that's in alignment of what that question, in regards to winning, it would have set us over our allotment for an endowment to where it would have put us over the amount to have that scholarship granted. I found other ways to put us over the amount to where we could have that scholarship endowed. And I feel proud that we did it the right way and not by having a dispensary complete the endowment by funds that were not permissible.
Thank you.
that was where that question was
If
going.
someone in this room was the person who asked the question, and any clarifying question? Okay, then we're gonna move on.
Okay.
What role do you see cheer and dance playing in athletics? Tell us how you have supported these programs in the past.
Well, when I was here in February, I was really excited to see the success of the program. And I feel that it is an important sport. I know how much it can add to a program on many levels. I feel it's a sport. I don't know how much at this point it is being celebrated from a competitive level within the Northwest Conference, but I do know in many states they are looking at it as a way of enrollment. And I feel from stunt and cheer, as well as enhancing athletic events, it only adds to an event. It brings people together. It is the choreography is just incredible. The artistry, it is an art and it's a sport in itself. The time, the energy, the commitment, the discipline, the injuries. It is commendable. I actually had to step in and take a cheer team to UC Davis cheer camp once and didn't know anything about a cheer stick and going in and glitter and all this stuff. I was a softball coach. It was just a whole new world to me. And I learned a lot being in the trenches and actually taking a cheer squad to cheer camp, and I learned a lot. And I think it's significant. It adds to it. My current institution doesn't have it. It's a shame because I feel like our student section really lacks the cheers and the spirit. And I'm excited to possibly be in a department that has that celebrated type energy and spirit and athleticism. And I think it is important. It's only something that enhances the whole environment of an athletic department. So, and I'm going to see them continue to fly across the country and represent Winfield on a national level.
Any follow-up questions? We're good? Okay. Move on. Describe your approach to financial responsibility and accountability. How do you ensure that each program operates within their means? What does accountability look like in your leadership style?
Well, again, I would like to know a little bit more about the organizational and executive team structure. Hearing that there currently is an interim athletic director and an associate athletic director. I've not heard that there is an associate athletic director, CFO. Love to know if each head coach is given a budget, if there's weekly meetings, what access points do you have to your online systems to your budget? Do you do an approval budget? I had an associate athletic director, CFO at my department. Unfortunately, USC basketball came in and recruited him away from me at the beginning of this academic year. They did really well. So I dove back in and I handle all of the approvals in what we call concur travel. And so I have had direct access to approvals and expenditures and accountabilities of all of our coaches. I've only in 30 years been over budget one time, and I feel that it's because I've really dug in and found what is needed for programs and held coaches accountable, and have had budgets planned for areas of need and for championships and for field and maintenance. You know, there are going to be things that break. For example, the pool vacuum is going to break from time to time. The mechanism that pulls, we have an outdoor pool, that pulls the covers off and on, it's going to break. You know, you're gonna have the sprinkler system all of a sudden need to be repaired, or a windscreen that catches 40, 50 mile an hour winds get shredded, that needs to be replaced. Things are going to occur, and you have to have that facilities and maintenance budget, safety net. I don't know if all those things are set up, or championship budgets are set up. Those are things I would like to look into, but those are things that I feel that need to be handled, and those are the stressors of the director of athletics and the executive team, or those associate ADs, if they lie within that structure, within the department. I've not seen that structure yet. I asked for it in February, and I would like to know what that structure looks like now. But that burden shouldn't fall back on head coaches, in my opinion. You should be a collaborative voice in that process, because you are the experts within your programs, and you know what you need to compete in the conference and regional and national levels. That's really key. But accountability is that you should submit what you need and be held accountable to it when you travel, and make sure you don't go over budget when you go out recruiting or with your team travel. So.
I can speak to this a little bit. As a first-year coach, I'm going through this process. We have a spreadsheet that it has values, and we plug in, this is your game, this is how many athletes are traveling, the meals, and then there's all these different spreadsheet pages. So we plug it in, and then boom, it gives you this big number. Now, does that number match your budget? No. So then it comes down to what I would consider a need versus a want. You know, what do you need to be successful? What do you want? So now I would guess that every single program in here that fills that out, when you do your budget, the number is going to be a lot bigger than what we're allowed. So
Yeah, I would say like a follow-up question for me would be like, how would you determine what a need or a want is for each individual program, right? Because you can have a ton of experience with like certain sports, but then maybe not know necessarily needs for other programs. So like, how do you determine what a coach's need is versus what a want is? Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
Sure. Well, I have a 2.5-inch binder evaluating the EADA report, which right now you only have 2 pages of your EADA report listed. And so a full deep dive needs to occur from 5 years of the EADA report for this institution. I've also looked at the Northwest Conference for all 9 institutions. And so you need to evaluate what has been occurring here and what has been spent. And then you want to look at what your conference opponents are spending. You can't expect excellence from each program if you're not giving your institutions. You can't expect excellence from each head coach if you're not supplying them, you know, the bare minimums. We can't expect you to excel if we're not supplying you the needs, right? So just realize that. So you can't expect a championship ring if we're giving you the bare minimum or below. So I would evaluate that from a standpoint of making sure I would look at that. Are you at the bottom? Are you at the 9? Are we funding you at the 9 level? Or are we funding you the top tier? So we would look at that, and that's something that I've been diving into. Not all of the institutions have it on their website. But that's something that needs to be dived into. And I would want, hopefully you're talking about at the conference level and maybe the SWA level as well. We should be looking at, you know, assistant coaches and head coaches' salaries also. You know, I want to endow all of our head coaches and assistant coaches' positions. That's what we should be doing, as well as programs. That's how we're going to continue to have budget fiscal responsibility and keep this institution athletic program moving forward. That's what a lot of athletic programs are doing, to stay moving and staying open. That's how we will stay budget fiscally responsible, is endowing positions and programs. That'll be key. Yes?
I'll try to answer your organizational structure question.
Okay.
You're correct. There really isn't an organizational structure. Last year at this time, there was an athletic director, assistant athletic director that was SWA and internal. Another assistant athletic director and a senior associate who was doing facilities and events. In the past, and this is even in my first time here, and the coaches that have been here longer than me can correct me if I'm wrong, the the budgets always came from the athletic director. There was no CFO, there was no athletics business person. The closest person to that would be Mary Jo right now. But she's more of a processing scenario. And so when you're talking about wants and needs, I think it was individual sports talking to the athletic director, and which, you know, if maybe that was an issue of maybe continuity or some type of fair versus equal, right? Now, since I've been back to Linfield, the one thing that has struck me, and you're talking about like assistant coaches' salaries, budgets, and you know, where the sport programs are maybe tiered. The thing that is obvious, and we feel it over here in athletics, is the stress on athletics to increase roster size. Because the other side of campus was not getting students. So if you look at, Joe, you said, was it, we were 30-something% back in the day, now we're like close to 50. Without the support of that extra 20%, right? Whether it's equipment, whether it's travel, whether it's officials, whether it's assistant coaches. And so where we're at now is what you're probably seeing is where we've been stressed for a number of years in a different way, and have had to, we've had to do our part plus more enrollment wise without the minimal financial support. So you're talking about needs and wants. The needs and wants have come out of our fundraising fund from Top Cat. It has not come up from across campus. It has not come out of the 01 budget, as far as I know. And so we're kind of at the mercy of our 01 budgets and or whatever we end up bringing in with our own sport programs to fund basic stuff. And then you've got programs here that have been at championship levels for a number of years that don't want to fall below that, right? And so now we're getting into this fair and equitable scenario. Because like what Coach Dalsey said is right, there's sports that are emerging, right? That have different needs, that are sports that are at championship level. But we're not able to really address these on a budgetary scenario because of the stress of we got to get numbers in. And the coaches in this room want to win. They want to win. But when you're having to get the numbers in without the extra support, the stress that it puts on your staff, the stress that it puts on budgets. So for example, there was a number of years, Karen, where we had coaches hit the road, but we weren't allowed to pay for their breakfast or lunch if they didn't leave at a certain time. That had to come out of fundraising. So there's some things like that. So, you know, right now for this next AD, it's a big reset button. In addition to collaborating with our leadership that's across campus. And so hopefully that kind of paints a picture. So we haven't had a CFO, but that's been like that as maybe forever, honestly.
Appreciate that.
Can I ask a follow-up question to that too?
Sorry, just real quick, I think you had a question first, right? No, you're good? Okay, I'm sorry.
Karen, you said, you spoke to like bare minimum, and then you talked about championship level. And to me, those two things don't coincide. I mean, I think that why so many sports have been at that level is because of the commitment to the coaches in this room. It's a testament to them. But I don't know if that's something that can be maintained, in that you're gonna fund them at a bare minimum and then continue to expect that championship level. So how do we?
I'm not saying I would fund them
No.
at bare minimum, I'm just saying I would evaluate where they're currently being
Oh, no, I'm not talking about you funding, because you don't fund, I mean, I'm just saying that, so how do we fix that?
It all needs to be evaluated based on the EAD report. Really, a deep dive needs to occur on the EAD report. So we really need to look at the data. The data will speak of what historically has been happening in the department. Yes?
Follow up to that, after you look at the data, most likely the data is gonna tell you we don't have enough money.
Great. And I'm gonna do a lot of this.
Exactly, and that right, but that right there is what we've all been doing for a while.
Right.
The big question is gonna be how you, if you are in this role, how you are gonna advocate for us across campus. That is gonna be massive, because we've gone through the different processes of that and the data, and at the end of the day, it's like, well, do more with less, which we get that, we already do that, and find the money.
Yeah. That's one of the questions, right? Are you opposed to it or not?
Yeah, a part of it, but that's okay.
Yeah, you want me to share about that?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
So in my current institution, and it kind of speaks to one of the questions that were supplied to me. In February, I had an opportunity to meet with advancement. In my current institution, we have also an advancement team. And the previous president that hired me, he asked me to meet with an architect and to come up with a capital design to redo our athletic facilities, because he wanted me to plan for the next 30 years. And so he asked for me to meet with an architect and revamp our entire athletic facility. So, of course, I wanted to think of the next 30 years. Well, I went big or go home, and so I came up with a $56 million project. And it was an overhaul, and I worked with an architect, and I'll send one direction one, and it was creating a new, send that direction, we have part-time coaches. I only have currently 3 full-time coaches, so, and I just asked that you hand these back, because these are confidential internal information, so, here's some, so, we currently have one physical education and aquatic center. It has an Olympic-sized pool. It services I also service, and I am over all of our recreation, our intramurals, 15 intercollegiate teams. And then we have a large AstroTurf, which has our rugby team, our men's and women's soccer team, but there's no field house. There's no satellite training room. There's one stall for the men's restroom, and there's one stall for the women's restroom. Now, mind you, I have 36 to 50 men that come out for rugby, one stall. I have anywhere from 15 to 25 women come out at one point in time for one stall of women to go to the restroom. That can be challenging during a practice. So he wanted me to work with this architect. Depending upon the advancement, I would want to know the president, when I report to the president with an opportunity, is